Good day. It's currently the middle of February. I just got done blasting away another foot of snow. It's like 5 degrees, and we are in the throes of a most awesome full winter experience. That being said, when I made the initial post on Brow Bass Tools and listed the baits, that was 6 years ago, and there has been some changes. I've narrowed down some stuff, and I'm gonna show it here. First off is going to be Topwater, and before I even get going, all of my hard baits, I have had good success changing the hardware on all of them, no matter what it is. And I use Owner split rings and line ties. I use Owner ST35s, treble hooks. I use Mustad KVD red treble hooks. I use a Gamakatsu Magic Eye. And the new kid on the block is the new Mustad inline triple grip. So we're going to be trying those. But all of my baits have aftermarket hooks and hardware. And this is the walking bait box, mostly all striking sexy dogs. There are some hard knocks in here. There are a couple of Mega Bass Giant Dog X's, which is pretty dynamite bait when it's really flat. But the best bait in the box, which will be at the top of each box, this hard knock Clearwater minnow has been phenomenal. And once it really flattens out, I turn into Mr. Pop Max. I love this bait. I fish it every opportunity when the conditions are right. I love seeing a big smallmouth come up and smash this. Best bait in this box by far has been the perch. And I also have a selection of Rapala subwalks. It's a dynamite subsurface bait that only runs about a foot or so, walks the dog when the fish are looking up, but they don't want to come all the way up. That subwalk works pretty good. So that's the Topwater selection. Let's see what's next. Alright, next up is Square Bills. I am a Strike King 1.5 and 2.5 user and abuser. Had some pretty good success with these baits after the jerkbait bait kind of fades away and the fish are still shallow. I have 1.5s silent here, 2.5 silence in the middle there, and this is a combination of 1.5 and 2.5s that rattle. Best bait in the box in the silent 1.5s is this pumpkin seed color. I have no idea why, but it's a killer bait. I have a few of them. This is actually is a Lucky Craft custom painted 1.5 silent perch color that's been pretty good, but doesn't show the wear. And this Shore Minnow is pretty dynamite bait too. As far as the 2.5s, once again, it's this pumpkin seed. Still making it happen. And I like fishing these 2.5s in the fall. I fish them like a spinnerbait, long bomb casts over weeds that are close to the surface, and I speed burn the bait, and smallmouths will come up and crush it. It's a fun bite. And then as far as the rattle baits are concerned, the old Chattahoochee Special is a very popular bait. And before I go, I will say that this bluegill color is pretty good in the spring too. And the bluegill come in to spawn. And so that's the Square Bill selection. Alright, we're on to Rattle Baits, lipless baits. And Strike King has a strong showing here. 1/2 ounce and 3/4 ounce baits, as well as a Duo Realis G-Fix. And a few 6-cent baits, and the vaulted LV 500 Lucky Craft. Starting over here with the regular red-eye shad. Great bait, covers a lot of water. I've narrowed down my colors. I had quite a bit more. Best bait in the box is once again this pumpkin seed color. I don't know why, but man, they get smallmouth, get on that thing. And these are the 2-tap baits that have a very distinct sound. They're a little heavier too. They cast a little better. One of the top performers in the 2-tap section is once again that pumpkin seed. But the superstar in this box is actually a silent red-eye shad. It's supposed to be silent, but it makes a little bit of a clicking noise. And this bait has gone for a lot of fish and is really chewed up. Hardly any finish left on it. It started out looking like this, and seems to the more it gets beat up, the more fish. The more it gets beat up, the more fish it catches. Doesn't cast great, but doesn't seem to matter. Moving over to the Duo Realis G-Fix and 6 cents. That 6 cents bluegill's pretty good. I got a Megabass Vibration X we're going to be trying. But this Duo Realis G-Fix 3/4 ounce tungsten, it's a thin bait. I think this is hypersonic shad color or something. Really good bait. I fish it like a blade bait. It's been a very good producer for me, especially late season. Goby color is pretty good too. And so that is the Rattle Bait collection. Okay, continuing on with the horizontal moving bait crankbait theme. We're looking at a little selection here. This is a flat-sided square bill. 6 cents X75 is 75X. I don't know which one exactly. Really phenomenal bait for me. I fished it in the springtime before I started fishing jerkbaits super heavy. This was my main producer. And the best bait in the box was this bluegill colored bait. It has a subtle rattle in it. Casts nice. It's a 5/8 ounce bait, so it gets out there. Caught a lot of nice smallmouth on that. I put some Megabass we're going to try. The OG Rattle Bait has not produced for me like I had hoped. Running a little deeper, there is the Rock Crawler 55. I think that's a Spro. Is that a Spro bait? Rock Crawler 55. I have definitely a crawfish theme going here. This Phantom brown color as well as this red color are really been good producers. The Strike King 3XD has also been pretty good. And in a class by itself, and I just started fishing these last year, the Strike King Hybrid Hunter. These are all the juniors except for maybe 1 or 2. Some rattle, some silent. Best bait in the box has been this perchy color with a little rattle in it. It only runs a couple of feet deep. I burn the heck out of it and then come up and smash it. This is the full-size bait, and it's a little bit of a mouthful for a smallmouth, a big smallmouth even. I haven't had any luck with the big one yet, but I'm going to keep giving it a shot when the big ones are around. We'll see what happens. And so that's some of the crankbaits. All right, next up is one of my favorites baits for big smallies, early and late season especially, is a Vibrating Jig, and the only one I fish is a jackhammer. And I know there's mixed feelings on that everywhere, but I fish the baits that catch fish for me, and these baits catch fish for me, so I fish them. I have a box of 3/8, box of 1/2 ounce, and a box of 3/4 ounce. The only trailers I use is a regular Zaco or Zaco and the Swimbait version of the Zaco. I also use a Paul Cruz hand-poured Goby minnow. That I called it the Thunder Goby, even though it's not a Stole the name from the Thunder Cricket, which I don't fish anymore. These are better. Tackle Warehouse has come out with a couple of their own colors. They're all pretty sporty. I use a spike-it pen on some of them to color them up a little bit. This green pumpkin, if you didn't know anything else, just crazy good. This gold laminate orange perchy looking thing was dynamite on a cloudy day. And of course the 3/4 ounce in white is staple. I am either crawling these low and slow, or I am burning them. And that's a relative term. As fast as you can fish them with a head, them still run correctly. There's very little middle ground. I'll fish them over the tops of weeds, around the bottom of a deep weed line. And it's these things, especially early season, have produced some of my best days on the water. Love the bait. One of the things I like most about it is I get to fish it with some beefy tackle, 15-pound fluorocarbon, and a heavy or medium heavy, moderate fast rod. So I get to kind of lean on them rather than when I'm fishing with spinning gear and you gotta you're at their mercy for a little while. Alright, so that's the Vibrating Jig collection. Alright, moving right along is the Spinnerbait collection, which is a little sort of extensive. It probably means that I like fishing them and that they need to be replaced a lot. And they do. I'm starting out over here on the left side with the Strike King burner spinnerbait. It's a 1/2 ounce bait. And I am fishing these baits high in the water column really fast. And there's really only two sort of directions that I go when I'm fishing these. I'm either fishing it sort of a plain white flavor or a very mellow bait without much color, or something that's just really loud and radical. That's a Strike King burner spinnerbait, but I put some aftermarket chartreuse blades on it. That bait is ridiculously loud. You can see it. Not loud sound, I mean bright colored. I can see it like the whole cast. And then all of a sudden it disappears. And I like that. One of the things I do to my spinnerbaits, especially the ones that I'm going to burn, is I put some solder around the main hook. Adds weight, keeps the bait down, allows me to fish it quickly. And it runs true because it's right on the hook. I use a regular blade minnow trailer on those. The next couple of boxes are a new spinnerbait that I've only fished for a season, and it's the new Freedom Freak long arm and short arm spinnerbaits. And these are all 3/4 and 1/2 ounce baits. These are the long arm baits, these are the short arm baits. They come in some dynamite colors. This bluegill color has been fantastic for me. I can really launch this thing into orbit and then burn it back. It runs really true. They come in some dynamite colors. I mean, how can you beat? You can't beat a chartreuse and white spinnerbait. I mean, that's just a killer. The short arm bait is a little bit smaller bait. It has a little bit smaller hook. No less effective. I kind of think it has a different kind of a vibration and sound because of the length of the arm on the spinnerbait itself. But they do have some pretty flashy flavors. I love the loudness of the orange and the white blade there. Some days that's the magic. I have a lot of baits that are the same here because after 2 or 3 fish, the bait gets really jacked up, bent. Every spinnerbait does. And I don't want to be spending fish catching time trying to make a bait run true. So I'll just box it, pull out a new one, and off I go. And hopefully I can keep getting some good fish. This next box is got Biovex stand gun. That bait actually caught my PB. I change the skirts when I need to, sharpen the hooks best I can and keep them running true. This is a Megabass V9 dynamite bait. It's one of the few baits that I'll run an actual paddle tail on the spinnerbait because I'm slow rolling it, I'm not burning it. This S3, I cut the tail off, was a little long. Has not produced for me, like it has for other people, but we're going to still give it a try before we rehome it. And so those are the spinnerbaits. Alright, since I just talked about the Vibrating Jig and the spinnerbaits, which both I run a trailer on like 95% of the time, 100% on the Vibrating Jig and like 95% of the time on the spinnerbait. These are the trailers that I use. I narrowed it down. They're specific in use. For my Vibrating Jig use, it's going to be on the regular standard size bait. It's a Zacco. I don't play around. Green pumpkin's a killer flavor on just about any of the baits. For my spinnerbaits, I use a striking blade minnow. I also have a zoom paddle tail that I'll put on if I'm slow rolling a spinnerbait. But most of the time I'm speed burning them, and I'm using a bait that has a flat tail so that the bait will stay running true and won't be going sideways or getting all wonky on me. And something we're trying out new this year is the old spunk shad. I don't know if it's old. The new spunk shad. They have some interesting colors. I don't know what this attraction is. A lot of people have had quite a bit of success with these, and so we picked a few up. We're going to give them a shot. They're going to have to do something special to displace the Zacco, though, because the Zacco has trophy smallmouth on its resume. So we'll see. That's the trailers. Alright, and now we're coming to what probably is some of my favorite baits in the entire collection. And I probably have more of these than anything else, and this isn't all of them. But this is Strike King 300s here, Strike King 300 Deeps here, and Lucky Craft and Strike King 300 Deep Sinkers here. So it's Jerkbait City, jerkbaits all day, every day. I'm semi-addicted to fishing them. I have had great results. They catch a lot of fish for me early and late season, and it's really tough to beat this perch color in the regular 300. I have a couple of 200s. I don't fish them that much. In the 300 deep with the big lip, probably runs down 10-12 feet on along fluorocarbon leader and braid. This IU color over a sand bottom with the sun out and some wind has been spectacular for me. Moving over to the next box, I have Lucky Craft 127, 128, and 112. This is a little 112. This is actually a 128. This is the American Shad, Dynamite flavor. Caught my first 6-pound smallmouth, first 6-pound smallmouth I ever saw. And I was turned on to these by Mr. Dwight Hoddle on Lake Erie out of Pennsylvania. A lot of fun. The 127 real skin, there's a lot of trout on the places that I fish, and the real skin trout flavor seems to be pretty popular with the smallmouth at times. Doesn't run real deep, but it has a big rattle. Calls them in. And these are the new Strike King 300 deep sinkers. So this bait sinks. I used to make my own because I wanted a bait that would get down further than what a normal Strike King deep diver would go, but this bait sinks on its own, and there's no way looking at it to tell it from the regular deep diver baits, so I put like a little dot underneath the chin. And when I say I make my own baits, this is what I mean. I use a little lead, and that's been on this since before I got those other sinkers. And so that's the first portion of the jerkbait collection. Okay, this is the second half of my jerkbait collection, and I love fishing these baits. These are Megabass Vision 110s, 110 plus ones, Vision 110 Silent, Megabass 110 LBO, which I will get to, Vision 110 Junior plus one, Vision 110 Junior, and a couple other baits we'll talk about. Starting with the regular 110 where it all began. Phenomenal bait. Early and late season, best bait in the box for the longest time has been the perch colored, and it wasn't even close. Last season I picked up this shrimp colored, which is kind of perchy looking, but it looks a little different, a little clear, some kind of rattle. I had a couple of magic days with that shrimp color. Kind of hard to find, but if you can find it, it's kind of worth it. The Vision 110 plus one, deep diver, the perch, once again, phenomenal bait. Phenomenal bait. This IU color has been pretty good. Trout colored. When I want to go bright, get some bright flavors in there. Send in the clowns when the water's dirty. And one of the things that the striking baits don't have is a silent bait. And both of these boxes are silent baits. And I have had tremendous success going back after I already fished a regular 110, go back through with a silent bait and pick up some more fish and or pick up bigger fish. And so forever and a day, a silent perch, just crazy. But there's no weight transfer system. Makes no sound, but there's no weight transfer system. So I don't know what the advertised weight is compared to a regular 110, but it casts like a potato chip. I still catch fish with it, but I really wish that I could get it further away from the boat. I think I could cover more water, and I think I could catch more fish. And last year, I came across something called the Megabass 110 LBO. This is what it looks like. And it has a weight transfer system in it, but it's silent. And I'll show you what I mean. That's what the box looks like. I don't know if you can tell. So the special part about this bait is it does have a weight transfer system in it, and I think you can see it and you can hear it for sure. So when you cast it, that cylinder that's inside the bait goes to the back of the bait and it casts like a rocket. When it lands in the water, there's a magnet in the front of the bait. That cylinder sticks to the magnet, it stays there, the bait runs like a jerkbait, makes no sound. Really looking forward to seeing how these babies are going to perform. They've done okay so far, but I think the potential is there. Most all of the baits sold in the United States, domestically anyway, of the LBO are the LBO Max, which is what this is, and you can see it's a bigger bait. Has the same transfer system in it. Runs silent, but they're big baits. They're not as big as a Lucky Craft 128. They're not as long, nor are they as thick. And the 128 catches fish, so I don't see why this wouldn't. All the ones that I have that are not LBO Maxes came from the motherland, and they didn't give them away. But that's a dynamite, massive potential. I don't really know what LBO stands for. I hope it's large bass often, but we're going to see. This top box is Vision 110 plus one Junior. The perch, just phenomenal. That's why I have a whole bunch of them. Really, really killer bait. Like, it's one of my, I always have that thing tied on. If I don't have this tied on, I'm not breathing. That's pretty much the way that works. I ventured into the Nanahan area this year, and that was directly a result of the tactical bassin influence. We'll see how they work. They look kind of small, but we'll see. This is 110 Juniors. I haven't fished them yet. I'm hoping to see some good things. If the 110 plus 1 works, I don't see why the Junior wouldn't work. Actually, that's an FX with the bill that goes up. I fished those quite a bit, but they've sort of fallen out of favor. They're still good baits. They cast great and they catch fish. So, and that's the Megabass collection. That was kind of a little bit of a long one, but I could talk about those baits for a long time because they have been producers for me. Good talking. Before I forget to mention this, you'll notice, I don't know if you noticed it in the other boxes of crankbait boxes, but you can notice it for sure in the boxes of the Megabass baits. Specifically, like this is where I started doing it. All the baits are all facing the same way. So the bills are all facing the same way. And the reason that I have them facing the same way is when I store the boxes in my boat, they are stored on end, like this. So they're like that. And where that becomes a concern is sometimes Lake Mendichuk isn't the smoothest ride known to man. Sometimes it's a little bumpy, and these boxes get a little bouncy. Of course, the whole boat is anyway. You know, you're running over some slop. And if these baits are facing the other way in the boxes, and the bills are taking the brunt of whatever they're subjected to, I think that there's a chance that they could weaken and or break. I have never had one break, but I've been doing this, and so it has at least reduced and possibly mitigated the possibility of problems. And I do that with all of my bill baits. I think it's less of a concern with a square bill because it's a herkier bait. But don't want to be jacking up these baits because they don't give them away. All right, so that's something to think about when you come up with your own storage plan. Good talking to you. All right, moving on. We're looking at tubes and swim jigs. Big fan of tubes. Been fishing them for a couple of decades. It's pretty hard to fish one wrong as long as it's on the bottom. I use Strike King coffee tubes. I guess these are 3.5 size, and this is a 2.75. Green pumpkin if you don't know anything else. And then you can see most of mine are brown and green pumpkin, purple, green pumpkin, glitter, green pumpkin, gold. This is a goby with a green pumpkin on the back and a light colored bottom, like a goby, good producer. And if you're going to use these 275s, you really should invest in the specific hook that's designed for the smaller bait. Bait will run right and you'll get a better hookup. Swim jigs, I don't fish them a ton. They have their place. They attract a lot of pike, so I'm not always interested in that action. But 1/4 ounce and 3/8 ounce, and my favorite two swim jig brands are this Evergreen International Grass Ripper, and I'm using a Kitech paddle tail. I think that's 3.8. This green pumpkin has just been really, really, really good. So has this perchy flavor, nice. And then the 3/8, the same kind of situation. This is a Divine, 6th Sense Divine swim jig, made famous by Mr. Josh Jones. I have not been able to fish it without a trailer successfully though, so I get a skinny dipper on that one. I don't fish a lot of regular jigs for smallmouth anymore. The fish just aren't inside of the cover where I need to penetrate inside of it with a jig. They'll be around it, but they generally aren't in it. And if I need to fish something that looks and acts and performs like a jig, I'll just fish one of these 3/8 ounce swim jigs, and I'll just put a craw type trailer on it. That's a Rains Punching Predator. And this is Rage Bug. Can't go wrong with a Rage Bug. And so that's the swim jig tube collection. Don't sleep on the tubes, people. Tubes are good for smallmouth. Have been forever. Good talking to you. Alright, next up is a paddle tail swimbait. Super basic, super effective, pretty much all year long for me, for smallies. I'm almost always fishing a paddle tail swimbait on a jig head, and my swimbait of choice is the Kitech Impact Fat, and I'll fish them from small, I guess, I don't know if that's 2.8 or 3.3, and then it goes 3.8 and 4.2 and 4.8 and 5.6 or whatever, I don't know. I fish them all. Color, best color for me is this IU color, and I'm almost always fishing it on a jig head. This is a, it's either the Gamakatsu roundhead or the Kitech. I forget which one. But it's got a decent hook. I fish anywhere from a quarter, 3/16, and an eighth. And I fish them low and slow, and it's practically impossible to fish the thing wrong. I get bit off by pike once in a while, but they catch a lot of smallmouth, man. They catch a lot of smallmouth, and so I have a pretty good supply of them on hand at all times. I have also started fishing with this different jig head. It's a Dobbins swimbait jig head. It's sort of an unusual purchase, but it's been pretty effective for me. It lines up with the bait nicely, especially some of the bigger baits. When I pick a jig head, the hook has to be stout, but not too stout. I'm usually fishing it on 12-pound fluorocarbon max. The length of the hook cannot be any longer than maybe halfway, 2/3 at the most, going through the body of the bait. I prefer it to be like down near a third, but those hooks are usually a little light for me. Anything more than half, I think, jacks up the action of the bait. So I kind of like it to be around half. These are that same Dobbins head in an eighth. I use them on my A-rigs because the hook is stout enough to be able to deal with the tackle that I fish them on, and they're only an eighth. And they get a dynamite keeper, and the baits stay on there. And I can fish 5 here in Michigan, so 5 8-ounce baits weighs nothing. I can fish it all day, which is a lot of fun. I definitely use super glue. Actually, this is Loctite. I like the gel. I like the control of the gel so that I don't end up gluing the baits to my fingers on my face. And last year, I took a second mortgage out on the house and bought some drift fry. And I'm using them with light ball head. I think that's a Kitech tungsten, 1/8 ounce, 2-aught or 3-aught hook, depending on whether I'm using the small bait or the big bait. They've caught a few fish for me, nowhere near some of the production that I've seen others have with it, but I'm going to keep throwing them around. We'll see what happens. And so that's the paddle tail collection in drift fry. Alright, we are on to the Jackhammer Mini Max and some trailers that I use for those, and then the Swinghead collection, which I could do an entire 40-minute tutorial on that bait, but let's start back over here. Minimax I've had mixed results with it. I haven't caught any fish over 4 pounds with it. When I first started fishing it, I had some problems with the clip opening on me. I have since changed the stock clip to the clip that comes on the standard jackhammer, and that has since been eliminated. I use a couple of different types of trailers. Of course, you can't go wrong with the 3-inch Sako that pretty much was made for the bait. I also use a swim Sako. Something I started doing when I first started fishing vibrating jigs before jackhammer was even a thing in this country. And that's where the selection of swim Sakos started. I also have some luck with this little goby bait. I cut the fins off of it. It doesn't help it come through the water with the fins on it. And a little dipper does a nice job for me too. And so the Swim Seiko, really underutilized bait in my opinion. Does a lot of things. You can swim it, you can use it as a trailer, you can fish a Texas rig, you can do a lot of stuff with it. And then the Swinghead, unbelievable bait for me. I have had some special days on the water, and I'm using two different heads. I'm using this head, which is a 1/2 ounce, and it is not a traditional swing head. It is the head that comes with a New Freedom Stealth swim jig, and I'm just using the head. And it has a little spin on and off keeper system that allows you to change the hooks. And because of that streamline, it really comes through just about anything pretty nicely. It comes in 1/4 ounce, which is plastic. It comes in 1/2 ounce, which is I use the most, and you can see I use the most. And it comes in 3/4 ounce, which is like cast on a stone, but if you're in the wind or super deep or both, that's the way to go. I use two different hooks. I'll use this recently, the Gamakatsu Finesse. My standard hook is the Gamakatsu regular 4-aught EWG. And the bait of choice, without even any question, is Ragebug. Ragebug on a swinghead, Ragebug on a swinghead. My goodness, caught a lot of fish. The other head is a tungsten head, and this is what the package looks like. It's a tungsten football head. It's made by RPE Tackle. And these are 1/2 ounce baits. And this clip comes out of the bait, so you can change the hook. The only modification I make, it really is, it's a dynamite bait. It casts great. It allows a lot of freedom for the bait, and it keeps the bait down deep. The only modification I make to it is I add that line tie, because the tungsten head will slide forward on the clip that you tie your line to, and I don't like the idea of the tungsten cranking on the fluorocarbon. So by putting the line tie on there, that pretty much eliminates it. I haven't had any problems with it. Swingheads, huge fan of swingheads. I think you know that. Alright, there you go. Alright, we're starting to get into some real specific type of baits. Starting out with some hair jigs. The old standard hair jig has been around forever. And I am admittedly not an hair jig expert. I've caught a few fish doing it. I kind of think I should have caught more, but I'm still perfecting the craft. And it seems the less I do with it, the better. The standard black 1/8 ounce and 3/16 ounce hair jig, I think those are from Fielder Flies from Outcast Tackle. I've got a selection of different types. This is more of a structure type of a hair jig with a trailer on it that I'll fish in cold water deep when I want a bait that does absolutely nothing. But hair jig's a good bait, man. Clear water, long casts, can't be too deep. The fish have to be able to see it, and you just have to kind of cruise it along and they come up and eat it. Light line, long rod, spinning gear for sure. And then we're into spy baits, spin baits, Duo Reala spin bait, and blade baits. Blade baits for me started long time ago with the old, I guess a Silver Buddy, is that what it's called? It's a 5/8 ounce bait. I've had that forever. Gold on a cloudy day. The Damiki Vault is a good bait. There's been a few guys online that have just been killing it with that bait. And I do okay with it. And the spin bait I use in the summer, flat, calm, long casts, deep, slow presentation. I could probably use it at the same time I use jerk baits, but Jerkbaits have just been so good for me. I really have a hard time throwing something else. I have a few jigging wraps that I've been playing around with that just really haven't ever produced. And I always carry some jigging spoons. And I end up catching more walleye on those than anything else. And so that's this perch color. It's probably been my best producer. So that's the hair jig and spin bait selection. Alright, now we are on to the A-rig, which is something that I have a serious love-hate relationship with. I love it when the fish are on it, but I hate fishing it when they're not. I started out a few years ago using the Strike King Easy Shiner as the bait of choice, and have since moved to Kitech Impact Fat. I've tried several different types of A-rigs, and they all kind of work. One of the problems I had with the initial Strike King short arm titanium spinnerbait is the titanium arms were breaking off while I was fighting fish, and it's a serious downer. There's I think this is the G-Funk, and this is the Mini Flex rig. Tactical Bastard Mini Flex rig. I usually use 1/8 ounce heads and 3.8 size baits. I fish it on 17-pound mono, 200 size reels. That's a 7'6" medium heavy moderate graphite old rage rod that really launches the bait and still gives me plenty of power to get the fish back to the boat. But this is a super effective bait. I fish it like a spinnerbait in the late summer and early fall, meaning I'm fishing it high in the water column at a pretty good clip. And I want the bait not quite as fast as the spinnerbaits that I fish. I want it to sort of hover. And this is one of the very few baits that big smallmouth will follow all the way to the boat. Now, I don't fish big swim baits, so maybe they would follow a big swim bait to the boat, or a big glide bait, but I don't like glide baits. I sold them all. And I don't fish big swim baits because it's just not, for me, it's not something that I'm going to have a lot of faith in for big smallmouth. But these little schools of A-rig baits have some kind of drawing power, and I've had the fish strike right at the boat, but I don't mind having them follow the bait all the way to the boat. It's sort of like when you're musky fishing and you get a follow, at least you know where she lives and you can come back later and get her. But sometimes if I just kind of hang out and keep fishing it, I'll end up getting that fish eventually. But it's a fun way to fish. You better be committed to it, because it's certainly not like throwing a Ned rig. I'll just leave it at that. But I like fishing them. Good talking to you. All right, well, moving on to my plastics selection, which I guess every honest bass angler just has to have. I fish these a lot less than I used to. And that's probably because I like to chunk and wind, and this means I have to fish kind of slow. But there are times where you gotta have them, so I have them. And I use these speed bags, which started out being really good, but over the past 4 or 5 years, the oils from the plastics, which are in their original packages inside the bags for the most part, have started to deteriorate some of the speed bags. So I'm looking for a replacement method of storing my plastics. But to start here is some additional chatterbait trailers. And of course, there's got to be a Zarko in here. And there's quite a selection of these Paul Cruz hand-poured goby baits, which are pretty darn good. And I am a big user and abuser of rage baits. And this is rage bugs, and you know they're all over that swing head. And I paint these bugs up with a little bit of chartreuse and a little bit of orange. And I use this worm and chunk paint. It's made by Spike It. It's a real thick paint that you have to put on like the night before and let it dry, but it stays on there, and it's very fluorescent, and it's effective. I've caught a lot of fish using it, and more than 75% of the rage bugs that I use on a swing head have a little chartreuse and a little orange on them. And this Arrange Menace, once again, this is something else that gets put onto a swing head a lot of times. They're all Texas code. And then a Rage Craw could show up anywhere. Could be on the back of a swim jig, could be on the back of a swing head. There's some more of that paint that I was talking about. It's actually a lobster, which is a darn good bait. I used to actually drop shot a Rage Craw. This with like a 3/0 EWG with quite a bit of effectiveness back when I was fishing in the canoe. And this says finesse worms, but it's really just worms. There's all kinds of. There's a cutter worm, striking cutter worm in here. There's a power bait worm that I'm sure is older than the majority of people that are watching this video. And then you gotta have methylate. I mean, how can you not? You just have to. You don't even question. You have to have it. Stick baits. I hate them. Used to fish them a lot, but I hate them. I don't know why. I just hate them. But if I had to fish one, Max Bait General or a regular Seiko, not Max Bait, Power Bait General or a regular Seiko, tough to beat. Caffeine shad, I like fishing them more because it's a moving bait, and smallmouth will eat them. So I have a collection of natural colored caffeine shad, and I also have the KVD Magic color. I mean, how can you go wrong with the KVD Magic color? And flipping baits, I hardly ever flip anymore, but I still have the baits. And that's a Berkeley Power Bait Beast, which was discontinued pretty sure before my son was born, and I think he's like 40 now. So good bait though. Stinks. Been sort of replaced by the Range Punching Predator. Nice bait. Kind of glides. Good size for smallmouth. The black and blue is real good too on a swing head. Drop shot baits, I don't do it that much, but there are times where you sort of have to, and everybody knows that the standard is the flatworm. There was a time there where that was pretty hard to get. Got my hands on a few. And then of course the Dream Shot KVD has put his kids through college on that one, I'm pretty sure. And last but certainly not least, anything that is Elastec. The ZM stands for Z-Man, but there's all kinds of baits in here that are Elastec. There's some striking Zulus, which are Elastec, and that's a bag of big Z-Man TRDs, which is the size I prefer for smallmouth, because the little one is a dink magnet for me. I have no interest in catching 12-inch smallmouth. Zero. And so that is like 191.7 kilograms of plastics that go into the Pro V bass every summer. And I don't know, they might not get there. Year after next, we'll see. Good talking to you. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up with the main line and leaders that I use to deliver my baits. All of my revolving spool tackle casting gear is fluorocarbon. I don't have any braid on any of my casting reels. and the majority of it is either 10, 12, or 15 pound tatsu. I buy it in bulk spools. I use this 8 as leader material. I don't use it on any of my casting reels, it's too small. But I'll use this for jerk baits, and this for some crankbaits, and this for vibrating jigs and spinnerbaits, and pretty much any horizontal moving bait. I have used the Cigar as both InvisX as both leader and a mainline. Worked dynamite. I like the manageability of the tatsu better, and I think it lasts a little longer on the reel. For leader material, you cannot beat big game. I have landed a lot of trophy smallmouth on 8, 10, and 12 pound big game. It's dirt cheap, makes good backing, it lasts for a while. I mean, the spools are all like 1,000 yards for like $8 or something. You really can't go wrong. For my drop shot stuff, I don't like going lighter than 6 pound with fluorocarbon. So when if I have to go less than 6 pound or 6 pound or less for a leader for a drop shot, I use Maxima Ultra Green. The knot strength is wildly superior, and I have used 8 many times. I like using monofilament when I can, but there are times where fluorocarbon is really going to be the choice because it'll run deeper. But they were giving away this Defier a few months ago, the spools, half price, and so I stocked up on them. I've got a few in storage, and they make dynamite leading material, and I like the color, and the knot strength is really good. They manage nice on a spinning reel, up to about 13 pound test. I'll use the 11 for jerk baits and 13 for surface baits, and I could use a 15 for topwater, but I prefer the 12 pound monofilament big game for topwater walking baits. I was gifted some of this Cigar Pounce. Haven't even opened it, haven't checked it out, but I will. My spinning reels have either 10 pound Suffix 832, 15 pound Suffix 832, Power Pro 20 pound Max Quattro, which is a dynamite line. Super thin, super strong, manages nice on a spinning reel, and handles nicely. I like it a lot. And the Smackdown I've had mixed results with. I'm not totally 100% sold on it, but I have it in, I think I have it on 8 pound on my head jig rod, and it's been working okay. And last but not least is the American Fishing Wire Surflon Supreme wire that I use in front of anything that I think is going to get bit off by a pike or a muskie. It's knottable. This is 20 pound test. It's pretty thin. I'll tie it directly to 10 to 15 pound braid, or if I'm fishing like a jackhammer or a spinnerbait and I'm around a lot of pike and I'm fishing 15 pound fluorocarbon, I will tie 20 inches of this in front of the fluorocarbon and then fish the bait, and it works fine. I will say that if you put it on a jerkbait that you expect to suspend, it will drag it down. It won't suspend. The weight of the wire will drag it down, and you can't just use like 4 inches of it. That's useless. A 35-inch pike's face is like 18 inches deep, so that bait is going down the hatch, and he will be way past your leader unless you make it long enough to support the length of his face. And so there it is. That is the Brown Bass Tools 2025 version and the line that supports it. And I hope that helped somebody out. And I'm really looking forward to getting out there and getting this stuff all wet. Thanks for watching. Good talking to you.